So over the past 4 months, the commercial banks have bought back 60,000 silver contracts over 300 million ounces.
So Andy, let me put this up on the screen. There's been this huge story that's been floating around on YouTube, and now it's like even made it to Zero Hedge, that some Texas billionaire stepped up to the plate and bought $50 million worth of silver, and it got sourced through Miles Franklin. And funny enough, I think you work there.
I do indeed.
I guess this was on Chris Marcus's channel that you guys revealed this. What are you allowed to share about this? I guess the big questions we've had that I've seen on Reddit and Twitter are, how much are you allowed to reveal about the nature of this order? And how are you sourcing that much? A lot of people thought that would be incredibly difficult if it was all in American Silver Eagles, because there's such a supply shortage in that. The premiums are so crazy in that specific product. What can you share?
All right. Well, first of all, it was a $50 million order, of which half was in silver and half was in gold. And, Bill Holter, who you guys have had on your show before, is an outside representative of Miles Franklin and a dear friend of mine. And he called me up. And by the way, the client really wants me to talk about this. Ironically enough, Bill said to me, listen, feel free to talk about it. She wants the world to know that big money is entering the marketplace. And he called me up on a Friday. He said, Andy, I got a $50 million order coming. And, I've been doing this for 33 years, you guys, and I've heard things like that a million times. I'm like, okay, sure, great. Okay, Billy.
Let me know when the wire hit. Let me know when the wire's transferred. Right?
Yeah, right. So Monday comes along and he says, she tried to go to the bank today, but she has to go to the main branch and she has to go like 40 miles into the other state. And okay, Billy, sure. Tuesday comes along.
Are you like doubting it at this point?
Yes, I'm totally doubting it, because I've heard this stuff before a million times and they never happen.
Even from Bill Holter, you've heard this before?
Even from Bill, and I will say that Bill was very convinced, and I started to feel a little bit, well, maybe this is real, I
Got
guess.
a little hope.
Because when you hear things like this, more often than not, they're make-believe. We did $600 million in sales last year. We've done $7 billion in sales. And the biggest order I personally have ever done at one time is $9 million. So I'm thinking, probably not going to happen. Anyways, late that evening, Monday night, the bank calls my office. A bank calls and asks a couple of questions, one of which is, are you sure you can even handle an order this big, which was weird. And then I wanted to validate the wire instructions. Now I'm starting to get a little bit, wow, this may actually happen. Tuesday comes along. Now keep in mind, I have never spoken to the client, and Bill relies on me and my staff to do all of the work in terms of any type of backroom work or sending wire instructions or communicating with the client on that level would come from my staff.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday morning comes along, we receive a wire for $50 million. Now, I never even sent an email, never sent an invoice, nothing. I called Bill, I said, I'll be damned, man, we got a wire for $50 million. Now, I know you've had Bill on your show before, he's Jim Sinclair's partner, and without going into the reason they believe this, Jim and Bill believe the only thing to own are American-made products. She wanted to do half in silver and half in gold. And she only wanted as many Silver Eagles as I could get her, and the balance in pre-1965 junk silver or Peace and Morgan circulated dollars. We had 90,000 Silver Eagles in stock. We're one of only 27 U.S. Mint authorized resellers. We always stock an awful lot of Silver Eagles. Between 2022s and backdates, we had about 92,000 coins in stock. For 2 days, 20 hours straight, I sat at this desk, did not get up. I called every single source that I knew that I have known over the last 30 years in the wholesale business, and cleaned them out. Took out all of their allocations into August.
Wow.
She bought over 900,000 American Silver Eagles, and do the math at $12 plus premium. on that. She didn't care. She didn't care that the premiums were that high. She didn't care that she could have gotten Britannias or Kangaroos or Philharmonics for half the price, premium wise. Didn't care. She put the rest into Silver Eagles and to junk silver, and $25 million into pre-1933 US gold coins. No bullion, none.
Wow.
So Andy, a lot of people on Reddit and Twitter, they're saying, "Oh, silver's dead. It's below 19. It's going lower. It's industrial metal only. There's no reason to be buying it." What's going on with this? Why? Do you have any sort of insight into why prices just don't seem to be responding as we would expect in this environment?
Yeah, and I do, and I find it very interesting. I've been reading Ted Butler for a long time, and sometimes when you read info on the COMEX market, it's more of the same. It's monotonous, and you just wonder, does it even matter? But I'd like to raise a couple of points about things that he said recently that I find truly fascinating, and I think you and your listeners will as well. So you guys remember in March when we had the nickel failure on the London Metals Exchange? This is a 140-year-old market that basically bailed out the short that would have blown up otherwise. And when these markets are designed where if a trade blows up and the broker and the customer can't make good on it, it's the members of the exchange that are supposed to make good on it to keep the integrity of a 140-year-old exchange. And instead, they blew it up. They canceled all the trades and they more or less defaulted on nickel. The day this happened represented the all-time high in gold. On March 8th, it was at its all-time high. And silver, it was the highest point it had been since roughly June of 2021. And so when the market collapsed like this, Ted thinks, and I agree, that they received a wake-up call to get their house in order because the size of the gold and silver short positions dwarfs the nickel position. So if you look at the largest commercial shorts over the last 4 months on COMEX, they have bought back more of their short positions over the last 4 months than at any time in history. And as a result, now effectively hold the lowest commercial concentrated short position ever in the history of the COMEX market. Let me say that one more time. The lowest commercial concentrated short position ever in the history of the COMEX market. And it's also the case with COMEX copper and NYMEX platinum futures. The total net commercial buying over the past 4 months on what is a sharp and highly deliberate sell-off orchestrated by the commercials has been astounding. Now, there's a chart. And for your listeners, I would ask you to go Google the Office of Comptroller Currency, OCC chart showing the derivatives in the first quarter of 2022. It's incredible. It's a chart that's 12 years long, and every single year there's this much in the way of derivatives. First quarter 2022 goes like this. It's up off the charts. They pushed the ball down the hill so hard, January, February, March, right at the end of the first quarter, they jammed the ball down the hill right at the time gold and silver are flying in the middle of a war and in 40-year inflation, and they jammed the ball down the hill as hard as they've done in over a decade. And what happened was the managed money capitulated. So over the past 4 months, the commercial banks have bought back 60,000 silver contracts over 300 million ounces. What I am simply saying to you is this: what the commercial banks have been famous for doing is shorting a rising market. You can't do that. Think of AMC and GameStop. You short the falling market. Unless you're a commercial bank with unlimited money, you sucker the managed money in, they go up, and then they short the rising prices and they cap it and it drops, right? And then they rinse, wash, and repeat. This time, maybe they don't do that.